Aye.
Hello everyone, I'm creating this foreword to this July 22nd Exeter Township Supervisors meeting because I feel it's important to explain a portion of this meeting that may surprise you. Also, I will present to you what I was going to say in the chair if the chairperson had not prevented me from talking. Okay, first I would like to comment on the discussion you will watch concerning the township process for right-to-know requests. This is a real problem in our government when they prevent citizens from obtaining information in a timely manner. You will hear Mr. Granger and our solicitor, Mr. Cortez, provide plenty of excuses for a process that once worked well before Lisa Vanderlane and John Granger arrived in our community. Their excuses are totally illogical. Near the end of this recording, you will hear the second public comment section. You will hear me request that they bring back the in-out communications log that was always provided to the community at each meeting. This is one of many actions they have taken to reduce transparency. You will also hear me mention that the police department reports directly to Mr. Granger, and he is also the grievance officer. This is an especially onerous conflict of interest and should be remedied quickly. It is completely unfair to our police officers. Where are you, Chief? He simply cannot be both. Then you will see the chairperson, Mr. John Cusatis, cut me off and refuse to allow me to continue my public comments. Why would he cut me off? What was it that I was going to speak about that he cut me off so abruptly? I'm going to tell you here. Because John Cusatis will not and cannot stop public comment and prevent the facts from coming out. To fully understand what I'm talking about, you need first watch the 7/8/2019 Supervisors meeting earlier this month, the video, and then watch the 21-minute video I also posted from May 23rd, 2016, over 3 years ago. You can also read the minutes of the May 23rd, 2016 meeting on the Exeter website, but you will quickly discover that 2 pages are missing from these minutes. One of those pages contains some of the discussion in the 21-minute video that I post on YouTube. Why are these pages missing? Why did the township take down the video of this meeting? What I wanted to say when John Cusatis stopped my public comment was to comment on the July 8th, 2019 meeting earlier this month, where Edward Gillette and John Granger put on what we call in Silicon Valley a dog and pony show. They were attempting once more to mold public opinion and provide false and misleading information and testimony to convince all of us that the wastewater treatment plant saw, in their own words, decades of neglect and maintenance. As you watch the July 8th video, you will hear them try to convince you that the wastewater treatment plant is in intolerable condition, and it is very dangerous because supervisors and township managers completely neglected it before they arrived on the scene. Here I have in my hand a brochure, and this brochure is advertising the May 2012 open house, inviting the residents for refreshments and a tour of the new facility. These pictures show a fine new plant, only 7 years ago. Decades of deferred maintenance? I don't think so. So when I was going to discuss the May 23rd, 2016 meeting video and minutes at this recent meeting, and the key pages that are missing in the minutes, which shows the board discussing the need to replace 6 pumps and replace a key item in the dryer for it to operate. On the board in 2016 was Lisa Vanderlane and John Cusatis, and in the audience was Vincent Biancone. The manager at that time, and still today, is John Granger. So Cusatis now, the chairperson, Mr. Biancone on the board, and John Granger, the manager. And you can listen as he advises the board in this 2016 video to approve the work that is needed, about $1.2 million in 2016. So how can he sit there and say earlier this month that maintenance was deferred? They all agreed that the repairs and replacements were needed, that the pumps were over 23 years old. Paid consultants also recommended the upgrades in 2016. We also know and have in our possession an internal memorandum that exists from Paul Herb suggesting the needed repairs, among other critical upgrades, presented to the board in February of 2016. But then, in this video, they claim they haven't the money to do the repairs. And you will hear them say they have a revenue windfall of over $500,000. Then Vanderlane mentions a $7 million CD from which they get $380,000 in interest each year. So we had the money. We could have cashed in the CD, or we could have used it to obtain a short-term bridge loan, or we could have borrowed it from the grant general fund. The point is, the repairs and the maintenance needed to be done. Not only because it is our most valuable asset, but because if you look at the township's new website and click on Government and then Board of Supervisors, page down and read section 607, enumerating supervisors' duties, and read item number 2, which says, have the responsibility for maintenance of township-owned equipment and facilities. So in that meeting held on May 23rd, 2016, you will hear the discussion and hear the motion to have engineering studies performed. But what you will not hear is a motion to fix the issues. In fact, that motion never comes. And subsequently, 2 years and 5 months later, the pumps fail. And 4 million gallons of untreated sewage flows into the river. We're expecting a fine from the DEP. We do not know yet how much it will be. They may tell you it was some other part that failed, but I discussed it with the operators that worked there, and it was a device connected or part of the pumps that would have been replaced along with the new pumps. But what is more obvious is the contradictory statements in the July 8th meeting this year with Granger and Cusatis and Biancone agreeing and supporting the contention that maintenance had not been done for decades, when they each knew that only 3 years ago they discussed it in that meeting for 21 minutes and should have approved the work. You view these videos on your own and you decide. You'll find them all on YouTube. Do a search for Exeter Township Supervisor meetings. Find the circle with a capital D in it. Click on that circle and you'll see all my videos. And once you watch them, if you're thinking, what can I do? Well, I suggest you go to the Exeter website and the supervisor section. Click on their names and their emails for the township will pop up. Send them a message that you want John Granger fired, that you would like them to take a vote of no confidence in John Cusatis and ask him to resign. That is the least you should do. Then, if the supervisors fail to do as you request them to do, you know, without a doubt, that they support Granger and Cusatis and their inappropriate behavior and false and misleading information that they constantly present to the public to influence public opinion. What is the truth today? Some would say that the truth is whatever Mr. John Cusatis wants it to be. Enjoy this video of the July 22nd Supervisors meeting coming up next. Thank you.
2019 Exeter Board of Supervisor meeting. Please stand for the pledge.
Yeah, I'm taping the meeting.
Thank you, sir. John, you want to take attendance then?
Yeah, sure. Supervisor Dean Cody.
Present.
Supervisor O'Donnell. Supervisor Cusatis.
Here.
Supervisor Anderson.
Here.
Supervisor Spees.
Here. We're not going to do the public hearing.
That's great.
Off. First up is presentations on the website.
Okay, I turned on the.
All right, I am very excited to present the website to everybody. This will go live tomorrow morning. So right now this is not the live site, so I'm just gonna walk you through and demonstrate the pages that we'll have. So when it goes live tomorrow, there are some features on here that I can't demonstrate for you tonight until it goes live, but I'll walk you through where to find everything and the nice new features that we're gonna have. So this is the homepage. So when you navigate to exetertownship.com, this is what you'll see. So you'll see a rotation of pictures at the top. Those will change periodically when we have new events and things to add to it. We also have plans to put footage, video footage in there. So we've been collecting some drone footage around the township, so we'll be adding that in. So you can see the navigation bar here at the bottom. There's a little bit of a lag here, but you can navigate to all of the departments right from this bar. So from any point on the page, you can always go and find what you need right from this bar. So if you don't want to scroll down at all and you know exactly where you're going, you can just click right from here. You don't ever have to do anything else on the site. So the bar will stay static. I'm going really slow, but the bar will stay static at the top of the page. So as you navigate to everything else, you can always still just access the departments if you know what you want. You can always access them right from up top here. So you can see here we've got the live, work, play buttons. So in each of those under live, you'll find information for residents, new residents, people who live here currently, what your utilities are, and just some information on why Exeter Township is such a cool place to be. Work is focused more on businesses. We'll have information for businesses, anything that you might need, or if you're looking to start a business, or just if you're a person who works here. And play will link you to parks and recreation and other activities that you can do in the township. And I'll come back and click on that, but I want to just show you the rest of the front page first. So this section here, you'll find the events calendar. So right now you can see the Board of Supervisors meetings are listed on there, and the Planning Commission. As we start to add more events to the calendar, those will show up on the front page as well. News and announcements. We'll update that periodically, so when we have a news item, that will pop up right here on the front page. And you can also search the archives and look for older news stories as well. So this is just another quick way for you to access departments as you scroll through the page. So when you hover over them, you'll be able to see what the icon is for. So we've got the employee directory where you can find all of our emails, engineering, EMS, the fire department, the police department, your utilities, highway department, Parks and Rec, and then how to find us. So the social media piece here, this is one of the pieces that I mentioned, we can't demonstrate until the site goes live tomorrow, but this will link directly to all of our social media pages and will update in real time. So if you're on our page and we make a post on social media, it'll show up right on the front page of the website. And then at the bottom here is an option for you to sign up for an e-newsletter, so you can sign up to get updates and announcements from us, and hopefully in the future we'll have a web version of our newsletter, our actual newsletter that we mail out that we can send to you by email. So I'm just going to go back and click on one of these just to demonstrate what the interior pages look like. So if you click on play, it takes you to another page here, which you can link to, like I said, the Parks and Rec page. You can link to the Reading Country Club, or you can see the events calendar. So I'll just show you Parks and Rec because I'm biased and partial, so I will show you that one. So we've got new pictures up there as well. They'll rotate through, they'll change as we do new things. And from the Parks and Rec page, you'll always see each of the pages are going to be laid out the same way. So when you get to a department page, in the center here, you'll see just the basic information. It will give you just a brief overview of the department and the people who you might need to contact. And then on the left-hand side will be the additional links that you can click on for other information. So under Parks and Rec, if you click on discount tickets, it will take you to another page where you can find information and link to the discount tickets. If you click on that link, it will bring up what you're looking for. So another way to get to the departments, like I said, is this bar up here. So you can always click right on, if you just want to click on the government tab because you're just looking for a department. Under government, you'll find the employee directory, the board of supervisors information, anything you want. If you click on departments, it's an easy way to you can just select which one you want rather than going through the quick links or navigating through the whole page. And so if you wanted to get to a department through the quick links though, I'll just demonstrate that for you. It's the same thing. We click on highway, see our nice photo of our guys out there paving. See if you recognize anybody sitting in the room.
Where's Clarence?
See the guy on the far side? So you can see, same layout, so you'll always find all the basic information in the center of the page and then additional information on the side here. So if you're looking for paving information on Trout Run, you can find it over here. So the other thing I wanted to show everybody, because I know a lot of people in this room will be interested in this. So the Board of Supervisors page, this is where you'll go, so you can click right on, so Government, Board of Supervisors, this is where you'll find the agendas. So you'll see that over here. When you click on that, and again, this is not going to show until it's live, because there's nothing in here yet, but this is where you'll find the agendas. So you can go right in here, and all the meeting minutes will be posted to this page as well, so that's where you'll find them. And then the last thing I'll show you is just the expanded events calendar. So you can see this little brief snapshot here. It will show you a different color for an event that's coming up in the same month. And then you can click on these to get more information, but if you're looking for what's happening 2 months from now, you can click on the calendar and it will expand it. So you can view a bigger picture of what we have going on and what's coming up. So this will go live at 8:30 tomorrow morning. It'll take a little bit of time before if you Google exetertownship.com, you may still get the old website for a bit, but tomorrow by mid-afternoon, everything should be fully operational.
I think it looks great. It looks, as with the logo, it's modern, clean, futuristic, and it's exciting stuff. It's long overdue because our website's a disaster.
Yes.
But this is great. This is really took a long time, but I think we did it right. So I think that's the important thing. Any other comments from the board?
Is it easy to add content now
Yeah.
to this?
It is much easier than the last website. Yeah, it is. Yes, it's significantly easier.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The
Excuse me. What are you doing? I didn't call you up yet.
She took comments from someone else?
No, she was asking about the house. That wasn't a comment, that was a statement. Any more questions from the board? Okay, thanks, Laura. Great job.
Thank you.
Next up, announcements, Fall Festival, Mr. Granger. Or Lori,
Well,
you can
I'll
take
just do that. So we have scheduled the date for the Fall Festival for this year. We're gonna do it at the Daniel Boone Homestead. Unfortunately, last year we were not able to hold it because of the weather. So it's scheduled for Saturday, October 12th, with a rain date of Saturday, October 19th, although of course, we're not gonna need a rain date.
No, it never rains in Exeter.
So we're still working out the final details, so we'll announce more as we have more information.
Great, thank you, Laura. Next up, John, is.
I have a different agenda.
Excuse me.
I have a different
Okay,
agenda
well.
than you do because we skipped the first item.
No, if you're paying attention, I told you we tabled that. John, let's talk about the Reading Country Club.
Mr. Chairman, I have another announcement to make. This will be on press release tomorrow. Due to some water damage at the country club, the building is closed to all users. Recently, we've had an inspection related to an unrelated matter, and we noticed that there was some water damage in the building with certain risks to public health and safety. And we are in the process of getting contractors to bid on the work that needs to be done to remediate the matter. We think that it'll take a couple weeks to do that. It's an emergency based on health issues. We're working with the insurance company. We informed them today. We had a conference call with them about the matter today. It is related primarily to water damage in the Four Seasons room. We think there'll be additional inspections as the contractors work on the remediation. We don't know how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, but it is a serious issue. There are outings at the golf course. We'll be working with the outings tomorrow and the rest of the week to make accommodations for them. Either we will try and get it remediated as fast as we can, but if we cannot have the outings in the clubhouse, we will have accommodations for them outside the clubhouse. The township will assume all additional expenses. If we need to rent tents, chairs, tables, anything else, we will assume that expense so that they're not out of pocket. There's a wedding scheduled for mid-September. We'll be contacting with that bride as well. And hopefully that the matter can be resolved so they can have a better day than a better day. There are items in the locker room. If golfers wish to have those items removed, they are called Derek, and we will go in and remove those items and give them to the golfers. They are not permitted in the building at all. And again, it's a health issue right now. As we get more information, we'll let the public know, but this is a matter that is very concerning to us, and we want to make sure that we keep the public informed and take the remediation actions that are necessary.
Thanks, John. Next up, public comments, Mr. Hughes. Podium.
I wanted to reserve my comments
You
to
can do it at the
cover
podium.
the right to know request.
Okay.
I don't know what you're gonna talk about now, so I need to wait to discuss it.
Greg, you wanna, Mr. Gunther, do you wanna talk now?
We turn the lights
That's an
back
agenda
on.
item, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Greg Altier, 11 Nancy Circle. I want to compliment you first on improvements with regards to transparency in the township. The minutes from previous meetings to be approved have been consistently on the website before being approved. You are now videotaping meetings and making them available on the website and projecting documents so the audience can see what the supervisors are looking at. All of these things are positive changes. Other things need to be done in order to get the community to trust you. The first thing that needs to happen is the name calling and other inappropriate comments about individuals who are critical of the township needs to stop. When that happens, it discourages others from speaking up. They have to ask themselves, if I'm critical of the supervisors, what are they going to do to me? Accepting criticism is part of the job. You don't need to agree with your critics, but you should listen to them and respect them. I saw that on tonight's agenda is a discussion concerning right-to-know requests. In my opinion, this is a much-needed discussion. The current practice of waiting until the last possible minute to fill requests from certain individuals needs to stop. They are called right-to-know requests for a reason. We have a right to know. By waiting until the last possible minute, you are stating we have the information and we aren't going to share it until we have to. We don't care if you are unhappy about it. This just creates needless tension between residents and the township supervisors. At the May 13 meeting, I asked why minutes weren't being approved in a more timely manner and was told by Mr. Granger that he was very busy. However, it was clear that after the meeting, he changed his time management priorities to make sure the minutes were available in a more timely manner. I have to assume this was at the direction of the supervisors. It is time for him to do that with this as well. No reasonable person would expect a quick turnaround on a very involved right-to-know request, but that doesn't mean it should be filed on the last possible day at 4:30 p.m. or later. Do what is right and tell him to stop playing games with these requests. Currently, he is doing you a disservice. Right now, I cannot trust you because of the March 25th PowerPoint on Reading Country Club. I am concerned that you are going to close the course based on some expenses included in the report. I'm not sure what you looked at, but I don't understand why you didn't question the $8,892 cost to hang Christmas lights. Other large expenses included tearing out lockers and moving stuff. By all accounts, if you're going to include those items in an expense for RCC, then you should also include the legal fees from the Viva lawsuit. My guess is that didn't happen because it would have made you look bad. The right-to-know requests are the result of a lack of trust. Bottom line, it is time to really be transparent so Exeter can move forward in a positive direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaultier. Couple things. Thanks for the compliments. We did make some very positive changes, as you've noted. That's why we did the monthly golf report that we started this year. We're going to have a effective data every month to make proper decisions for the Reading Country Club. That's why we do the monthly golf report. So that's another positive to show the public where we're at, and we're having a really good year. Right to know we're going to talk about later in the night, and the personal tax. Keep in mind, it does go both ways. You know, when you have certain people call individuals' workplace, that to me, that's drawing the line. That's crossing the line. So you have to look at the entire data set. When you have somebody that called someone's work, to me, that's drawing the line. And with the name calling, I agree with you. It's just that we all have to be respectful to each other.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
You can deal with it, but not in a public setting.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's,
Fair
in
enough.
a public setting, it doesn't belong.
Fair enough. Next, I think that you were going to reserve your minutes for the right to knows. The rest are all for the end of the meeting. Regular approvals, minutes, July 8th, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I rise to, there's a correction you need to make.
Excuse me.
Spelling somebody's name wrong in the minutes, okay?
Did you?
It's Babylon. You should know that. Right? Buddy. Spelled wrong.
You will.
Okay, we'll update that. You want to amend it? Do I need to spell Babylon correct?
Yeah, sure. Okay. We'll amend it to spell Babylon correctly.
B-A-B-L-O-N. B-A-B-Y.
Okay, it's enough, Mr. Hughes.
Anybody want to second that one?
Second, somebody's a second.
I'll second.
Dave, can you want to?
You were there. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
One abstain. Aye. Minutes approved. Next up, Treasurer's Report, June 2019.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report subject to audit.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Disbursements. Did you hear the changes?
Is Jen here? Do you have the outline on the changes in disbursements with the?
There was a couple of vendor changes. There was, the most significant one was there was an issue of a wrong vendor number was put in for $112,000 payment that was to be made to the county for the TIF payment. It was put in with the erroneous vendor number, and that's been corrected.
Motion for disbursements?
I'll make a motion to approve the disbursements.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Old business, we're tabling it.
Yes,
Noise ordinance.
The special township has, this word, council.
Special counsel, conflict counsel.
Conflict counsel involved in this, and they are preparing some ordinances. It'll be on the agenda, August 12th, and the draft ordinances will be published, as soon as we get it, probably a week beforehand, so that the public will have an opportunity to discuss the matter.
And discussion on solar.
Or the solar panel? Will, thank you.
Sorry, technical difficulties already.
All right, good evening. So staff over the last few months have been working on an update to the solar ordinance. We currently have language, however, it's rather outdated. We've added a dozen or so definitions and then have broken uses up into two different categories, accessory and principal. Accessory structures are going to be the roof mounted or systems in the backyard. They're going to be allowed and permitted in every zoning district. And then the principal structures are going to be the ones that are on properties larger than 4 acres in size. And they are going to be for off-site use of the electricity. So the areas at the top in the teal, the dark green in the middle, light green, and then areas along the southern end of the township are going to be the principal, are the rural conservation, the rural to agricultural preservation, the light industrials in the yellow there, the flex industrials on the right, the greenish yellow, and then the bottom little orange zone is the general industrial. So we're proposing that principal structures are allowed in these zoning districts if there's at least 4 acres, if they're at least 4 acres in size, parcels. So all the energy systems are to comply with the PA UCC codes. They will need structural engineering stamps of approval, and the installers are to be certified or acceptable electrical contractors through the township. Obviously, they're going to follow height and setback restrictions, and the way impervious coverage is calculated is that it's going to be the construction material, so the footers. That's how we're going to calculate impervious
like, I know we were like putting some at this one shop, and, we actually had to have like a little diagram map for the fire department, so if they came in, they knew where to shut off the solar panels in case they, if it's not next to the meter. So is there something in that for the signage for
So
the
the
department like
principal
that?
structures, I believe, require signage along with, emergency contact information. On record, we will have, site plans and where each of the, components to the systems go.
I know we will, but I'm saying, is there gonna be something, like, so if a fireman comes up and a place on fire, they don't think, oh, the power's off, and then, cause a solar panel, I don't know if people know, when you pull it out of a box, it's hot. Like, the wires, if you touch the wire, you touch the end of the wires, it's on. Like, as soon as the sun hits it, they're on, you cannot shut them off. So, I'm just saying, like, if there's a fire, say that they have a fairly decent sized property, and their main shut off isn't next to the panel or the meter, then there should be at least a diagram or something to have them to go there. That's what I'm kind of getting at, or more for the fireman safety.
We do have a clause or section in there that, deals with fire safety and to allow firefighters access to the roof and for ventilation. So that's all reviewed, by the building code official.
It's a good idea, but the 24 permits, were they all the accessory?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Mostly, roof systems. I don't know if it was somebody calling around or somebody, standing outside of Walmart or Home Depot selling them, but they all kind of came in at one time.
Well, years ago, they used to give you like a 70%, rebate, but then you had to have so many installs, like the installer had to have so many installs to qualify for the rebates, and then even if you, say you put enough on and your meter's spinning the other way, it's not like they're gonna just give you money. Now you gotta get a broker to broker the deal of how much money you're gonna get back. It's very, but I know a lot of places are doing it where they'll sell you the panels and you just pay them, then they're doing all the brokerage deals, so I know a lot of those are popping up at the moment.
Question, you're an electrician, may I ask you a question? Is there a safety way to turn them off? You said the wires are hot, I understand that.
Right. Well, it'll all go down to like a main disconnect, so there will be a place, an external piece that you can shut that off, and that will, in essence, shut off power feeding to the house, but no, and there's no way to turn off a panel, so if they went on a roof, even if they shut off, if they hit any of those wires, they're hot. They're ready to go. But they're all kind of piped in, boxed in, but yeah, that's the one thing with them, they can be. And it's DC voltage, so it's not AC voltage. AC voltage, you have a chance of it, like, letting go, because it kind of goes up and down above the spectrum, where DC is one constant, so when it hits you, it doesn't let go. So it can be, like I said, hopefully you just get someone that's very qualified and knows what they're doing. We do not. Do what we say.
Done?
Yep.
The board has, if you wanna take some time to familiarize yourself, put it on another agenda for further discussion, that's fine. If you feel comfortable with it, authorization to advertise it for consideration, it would be probably August or September before the board. We're at your discretion.
I read it, I'm fine with it. I think it would be worth just maybe seeing other townships or whatever, is there something about a disconnect or something for safety?
We can look into that, that's a good point.
Okay. Other than that, yeah, I'm pretty good with it.
Good, so you wanna research that a little more well? Okay, we'll
I'll-
come back to the
I'll
board.
report back, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
you.
Next up, consider resolution further establishing regulations for data security.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We recently retained a new firm, as a township for our, security purposes on our internet and, computer systems. One of the things, and we've had, some communications with our insurance company on the same matter. Several weeks ago, there was a, ransomware attack on a city in Philadelphia, Florida. The city paid $600,000 to get their data back. because somebody got into their system. Now, our system is pretty secure. We've had our people look at it, they're comfortable with it, the administration's comfortable with it, a couple board members I think have looked at it. The vulnerability that we have is when someone brings in media to have us use to copy data onto it. We've no problem copying it, but we were proposing that the board adopt a resolution saying that the media anyone brings in be in its original manufactured packaging, so that no one has an opportunity, whether we're not saying the individual brought it in, we don't know how far that piece of apparatus got, what is on it. We do not have the ability to check it before it gets into our system. This is a security system for our records and public records. So if someone wants to have a meeting, they bring in a CD or a stick or a flash drive, things. As long as it's in its original manufactured packaging, we'll use it. If it's not, we won't. And that's to protect the data in the township so we don't get a ransomware and have to pay somebody several $100,000 to get our data back. That's the only way I can really think of securing the data in that regard.
I ask
So-
a question about DVDs. You usually buy a pack of 100, but sometimes you get 200. How can you bring in the original packaging?
I'm sorry.
I mean, here's an example right here. You asked me to bring in a DVD, I'm not gonna bring the whole stack.
You're gonna have to modify your acquisition purchase. We are not going to keep the townships, make the township vulnerable in any fashion. That's protect everyone in this room and everyone in the township.
There was a thing on there though that if they don't have it, we'll provide one, but charge them for it basically.
Well, that's what I thought I would be done when I asked my request, is they would put it on DVD and charge me $1 a piece.
We'll provide, we can provide those and you'll have to pay for it, yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that would be
today's
a-
world, you know, we've got, my company's been hacked and it could have been catastrophic, so this is something that we should have, again, should have been done a long time ago, so we're fixing it now. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So the solicitor's prepared a resolution. If the board is inclined, it would be appropriate for you to consider the resolution and establish the policy.
And I believe in that policy was, we would provide the media if needed,
Yeah.
so I'm fine with that.
Motion to,
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, John. Next discussion on Norfolk-Southern. Yeah, you're gonna take this. I know there's a lot of people here, 1, 2, like 4 people here that wanna speak about the Eversink Tunnel. So do you want them to go first?
You got anything?
The only thing I was gonna report, I did touch base with the PUC today, and no filing of a time extension was made by Norfolk-Southern, just to stay update to the current, and no application for DEP has been
Right,
raised.
and I'll have an update on what the procedure will need to be with the PUC and also on, if any of the comments are concerning trash trucks, I can address that as well. So why don't we go through comments?
Sarah Boyer. Just give your name and address, please.
Sarah Boyer, 91 Macy Way. Hello, my name is Sarah, and I am bringing attention to the closed tunnel on West Neversink Road. I'm a manager at Joe Lawn Kennels, and my brother, sister-in-law, and their 2 kids live at the house on the property, which is located at 551 West Neversink Road. Last week, an accident took down a utility pole, closing the road so no one could get in or out. Electricity was out and people were stuck at home in 90-degree heat. My family couldn't get to our business to take care of the dogs, and a customer wasn't able to drop off his pets. Thankfully, the road was opened long enough for people to drive over the wires. My parents left hours later, and the way that they got home was driving through the field. What if an emergency had taken place and EMTs couldn't get to a person in time? In November, my niece was taken to the hospital and spent a week at Hershey. Unfortunately, this was not the only emergency. 2 weeks ago, my nephew had a medical emergency. My sister-in-law was waiting for the EMTs to arrive. Thankfully, he was starting to breathe better at that point. When he was placed in the ambulance, an EMT asked my brother if the tunnel was opened yet. When my brother said no, the EMT looked annoyed. The EMT himself was angry. If emergency personnel are annoyed and angry about this closure, you can bet that those that live and work on West Neversink are furious. I hope the tunnel can be opened before the next emergency occurs. Sometimes in life or death situations, it is a matter of minutes if a person lives or dies. I would hate to see a person die because help can't get to them fast enough, or they can't get to the hospital quick enough because they are located on the wrong side of the tunnel.
And is Delana here too?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to speak?
I am the one whose children had medical emergencies.
Can you just give your name and address, please?
Delana Schiller, 551 West Neversink.
Thank you.
And this is very hard. My son, 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night, had a febrile seizure. He turned blue. I thought we lost him. So I called 911 and they were guiding me. I was too scared to even do anything. This is the first time my son ever went through a seizure. My daughter had one. Hers were never found. What was wrong? Needless to say, it seemed like forever for the ambulance to get there. And when they finally showed up, gentleman asked, is it open? He said no. Well, when we had no way of getting anywhere when the emergency accident occurred with the mascara truck, I got terrified. I'm like, my son had a seizure. My daughter had a seizure. Is it going to happen again? And how are we going to get them to the hospital, or how is someone going to get to us? So my main concern with the tunnel is emergencies. If we have it that, the trash trucks are pulling down electrical wires and we can't go anywhere. Let's say somebody is a doctor in our neighborhood, they have to get to work, they can't leave. I just feel that the tunnel itself should, at some point, I even called Norfolk-Southern, they ignored my phone call, I left a message, told them my situation, never called me back, I had no decency to do that. The main thing that's really concerning me is if there's going to be another emergency and the road could be closed for any reason and someone would not survive because the tunnel was closed. And there's no way our best to be able to get out of our development is it's either the tunnel or you go onto West Neversink. You can go through the field, but you're taking a risk there. You don't want to get. You don't know. If that's obviously would be your only way to go. And I just feel it's just a big issue, and it's starting to concern me, especially with emergencies.
No, thank you very much. The board is definitely, we've been talking about this for a while, and the board, hears everything and sees everything as well. So Sam does have an update, somewhat positive news.
Couple things. So, first, with respect to the trash trucks, I did speak with General Counsel from Mascaro, and a couple of things. This is an interim solution. It's not a final solution. But number one, they're willing to work with the administration, township administration, to come up with a new route. I know that the current route that they have is going through, I think it's Hearthstone, right, Joe?
Correct, yes.
Which obviously is extremely residential and not ideal for a route. They believe they've come up with a route that is far less residential and more commercial that will hopefully cut down on things like what happened last week. So we're going to work with them on that. I did speak with them a couple of times and spoke with them again today to confirm that this was something I could reveal to the public and it's accurate. So they understand the concern there. So we're going to address that, and hopefully at the next meeting we will have something to present to you, at least with respect to that. It's not a perfect solution, but it is an interim solution. They also intend to move the facility long term. Now I can't tell you when that's going to be. It's not going to happen overnight, but there is an intent to move that facility to a separate place that will not involve the current routes at all. So, when that happens, it will solve the problem, but again, that's not gonna happen overnight. I'm very sorry for, what I heard there. With respect to the PUC, what's going on there, we did reach out to Norfolk-Southern also. We have not yet received a response. We also reached out to the PUC, and what's gonna have to happen, and the problem is this is gonna happen overnight with the way the PUC works. And I won't get into too much detail, but the way that the PUC process works is you have what's called an administrative law judge who is assigned to a case. So right now, we're at the PUC, the Public Utility Commission. An application was filed by Norfolk-Southern a long time ago, over a year ago, seeking approval of the repairs that are needed. Right now, and Joe can speak to this better than I can, or Clarence can, the conditions there are unsafe, and I'll let you guys speak to that. But they undertook some repairs in a process that was not appropriate or compliant with the law. PUC got involved, required them to file an application, and the application was filed, and then an order was entered by the PUC requiring them to finish the work June 30th, 2019, which obviously has come and gone, and clearly the work is not done. So what will have to happen is a petition to enforce that order will have to be filed, and we can do that, but it's not gonna happen overnight. Their PUC is not gonna act on it until the administrative law judge acts on it, issues what's called a recommended decision, and then that will go to the PUC at a public hearing. So we could do that, and the board has authorized us to start that process. The last meeting, we're doing that. It's not a perfect solution either because of the immediacy. Really, the perfect solution is to get a conversation going with Norfolk-Southern, make sure it's on somebody's desk who recognizes how important an issue it is and try to get it resolved. And we're trying to do that. But I'll let Joe explain why it is that that roadway is not at this point passable.
What happened over several years, and it's been almost 4 years, Norfolk-Southern made some modifications to the passageway of the culvert, I'll call culvert but bridge, that they inserted a corrugated metal sleeve, for lack of a better term, like a pipe, in order to help support the bridge structure to allow it be structurally sound for their rail trains to continue to operate on those 2 tracks. Unfortunately, they've reduced our clearance that we had underneath that culvert or under that bridge, which in turn prohibited any type of truck to use that bridge because of the fact that the clearance was no longer there. Norfolk-Southern also was very adamant about installing what they call a crash bar. It's a steel type structure. If you drive down to that bridge, you'll see it's painted yellow. That structure is there to prevent a truck who may lose its way and go and try to attempt to go through the bridge. This crash bar will prevent that, because if not, it could possibly compromise the structural integrity of that bridge if a truck would get into that culvert and then would get stuck into that metal sleeve. So over a period of time, the township is going back and forth with Norfolk-Southern, where they've provided the township design to lower that road and also to relocate Painted Sky Road to help the transition of the lowering of East Neversink Road, so that there wouldn't be any abrupt geometrical or vertical changes in that intersection area that would allow for vehicles, including the trash trucks, to continue to safely pass through that bridge. A cost estimate was developed, plans were reviewed by the township, our office. Some storm sewer modifications were required, some taking of right-of-way. Those were secured by Norfolk-Southern. Once those plans were approved, a cost estimate was prepared. It went in front of the PUC at a hearing. The PUC in turn, as Sam mentioned earlier, prepared an order that will have Norfolk-Southern comply by the June 30th deadline. Meanwhile, certain approvals were required to do these modifications, including but not limited to DEP approval, Berks Conservation District, and so forth, and any type of environmental studies, because there is some modifications being made to the culverts where Trout Run is a detailed studied area. Those permits were, I believe, attempted to at least be secured by Norfolk-Southern. From my conversations with DEP, however, it is our understanding that they were never followed through by Norfolk to receive those permits. Meanwhile, no action was taken on having a contractor make arrangements with the township to have those described modifications completed by their June 30th deadline. So right now the township's faced with, I would say, lack of a better term, lack of any type of work. But in order for us to open that bridge, Norfolk-Southern has to make those modifications. That's the only way possible without replacing the bridge that structure will be passable for the vehicles that previously were allowed or permitted to go through it.
Right, and this work is not inexpensive, it's seven-figure work, and they're required to bear the cost associated with that. The DEP issue is, I'm sure what we're going to hear is the reason why the work has not started yet. There was a dispute, this was talked about at meetings, I guess, I don't know, this is over a year ago, concerning the DEP permits, and there was Norfolk-Southern took the position that they didn't feel they were required to get these permits. I've been talking with Joe, the understanding was we, the township, are going to be responsible for this roadway once everything is done, the underneath, what's underneath the bridge. And if we didn't get those permits and were required to, the potential liability of the township was very large. So we discussed, and this was discussed at a meeting, that we felt it was important to reach out to Norfolk-Southern and tell them that they needed to get those permits, and they agreed to do that. It has not yet happened, and the work hasn't happened, and I certainly understand everyone's frustration. I know the board is very frustrated because they've expressed it to me and Joe. So, we're doing the best we can. We'll file whatever we need to file. We'll make sure it gets filed. It's not a perfect solution though, because it's going to take, that too will take some time, and then it's going to require Norfolk-Southern to go get what they need to get from DEP to come back and do the work. So we'll keep
The township
on it.
really has reached out to DEP. We've reached out to our local politicians who were helping us try to have DEP expedite the review process. DEP has been more than cooperative. We've been in touch with them constantly. They were willing to do whatever they could to expedite. They knew the severity of the situation. I think everybody, including the township, has done whatever we could to have this process move along as fast as possible.
And it just doesn't happen, but we'll keep on it, and we'll keep giving updates. I'll give an update at every meeting until we have some progress there. I'm hoping at the next meeting we'll have some progress, but really we just need to get somebody at Norfolk-Southern on the phone who will respond and be responsive and get it fixed.
Well, it's amazing because they even approved to change the crash bar, right, to,
That was all worked out long ago.
That's what I'm saying, all this stuff's all been worked out, and it's just, they're still just.
It's the DEP, I'm sure what we'll hear is it's the DEP issue.
There's been a dispute whether or not they fall under the federal regulations.
Right.
And the interpretation we got from DEP is yes, they're not exempt from federal law.
And how much was it if like we could be fined if they didn't get all the permits?
It was expensive.
Typically, it's $10,000 a day per violation for not being in conformance. I think DEP was more than willing to help out and not take that route, instead try to help along and have all the permits secured so that we could proceed. And unfortunately, I believe they submitted information. I think it went through the administrative process based on my conversations with DEP officials. However, they just didn't follow through with whatever necessary application and permitting process.
Right, thanks, Sam. Thanks, Joe.
Well, and the other fear of opening up to, because people are like, just open up to cars, but the problem is, if you ever seen that video of that 11-foot whatever bridge and all the trucks, the problem is people are gonna, it won't be just cars, you'll have that.
And the bridge itself isn't, at this point, there's still a question as to whether that's even safe. The actual attachment, right?
Correct. The sleeve was put in as my understanding as an interim measure to help support. Historically, we have had problems before where I'll call the brownstone, the stone actually fell. I've reached out to Norfolk. We never did get a response, but we must have got their attention because there was a crew maybe about a week or so afterwards making the repairs. Clarence and I were out looking at several issues, and we did see staff from Norfolk-Southern making those repairs. But it's not those structures have been around for quite some time, and yes, who knows what the design life of that corrugated metal insert would be.
All right, thanks, guys. Ms. Gardecki, did you want to talk about Beechwood? That's next on our agenda. Discussion on Beechwood Drive, traffic concerns.
My name is Chris Gardick, and I live at 8 Beechwood Drive. I was excited to see that it was on the agenda. I've lived there for about 4 years, lived in Exeter my whole life. But I know you guys want to talk about the traffic, but me and my family feel it's the safety. I know it's probably one of the heaviest used roads. That's not 422. It's the shortcut from 422 to St. Lawrence. And I guess 1,000 cars a day, if not more, pass by that. It's pretty much a one-lane road, but 3 cars somehow fit on that road. There's a lot of close calls. We hear horns beep all day. Sideswiped cars. Mine's been hit a couple times. Neighbors. Our kids play out there, play out front, and it's, I would say, cars do at least 50 down that road. I don't know how they get from the highway. I live 2 houses in. By my house, they're probably doing 50. So it's insane. And then our kids, the neighbors' kids, they're right out there. Cars are just about sideswiping each other. Now with the construction going on, and now it's closed, so you can't get from Beechwood to 422. But people still were able to do that. They actually went around the signs. They went through yards. They went through the construction. Once you close off a little passageway, people are still going to try. And I've noticed that we had to put cameras up in the house because my car's been hit twice. But people on the internet tell us to use our driveways and not park in the street because they just need to fit through. So 2 cars can't fit, but they try. So just noticed that it was on the agenda. Thanks for bringing it up, and just wanted to voice some concerns.
Yeah, there was a resident that emailed us, so we definitely wanted to look at it. And I know, Chief, you have some data that you collected on the houses. If you want to speak to it.
Yes, so, the board received a letter requesting that Beechwood Drive be turned from its current configuration of 2-way street into a 1-way street from the intersection of East 34th Street, heading south 1 way to the intersection with Perkiomen Avenue. The residents cited a growing traffic and accident concern as his reasons for wanting the road to be changed to a 1-way street. First thing I did is I examined the crash data for the stretch of roadway identified, and only found 7 accidents reported within the last 5 years. Out of those 7 accidents, only 2 were serious enough to be classified as a reportable accident. A reportable accident is an accident which requires the vehicles to be towed from the scene. I understand that the concern, as Beechwood Drive and East 34th Street are narrow roads that only allow for parking on one side of the street. However, at this point, the crash data didn't support altering, I believe the crash data doesn't support altering the roadway from roadway to a 1-way street. Also, additional hazard, I believe, would be created by turning Beechwood a 1-way road heading south, as the drivers will still attempt to turn on it from Perkiomen Avenue, creating additional hazards. In addition, at one time, I know the traffic safety unit did go out to Beechwood Drive, and you know, as their speed was a concern there, and had set up speed monitoring equipment. And at that time, this was a few years ago, there wasn't enough to support a steady dedication of officers there to monitor for speed enforcement as well.
Thanks. Anything, Jim?
So it's, the issue before the board is what would you like to do? Nothing, or have some speed out there again and check the speed on it?
Can we put one of the new signs out there
The
to
solar,
collect data?
the solar speed thing?
Yeah, there was a couple around, but not on our road, like,
Yeah,
I think it's
Pennsylvania,
Park.
Pennsylvania down in Painted Sky, I know there's one on each of
Yeah.
those roads.
Yeah.
We can
do
extend
that.
it again,
We can get Dave.
we can get an updated information on speeds there too, and report back.
So would you make it if you came off Bergen Avenue, you make a right onto, say, go to Beechwood, like that would be one way that way?
It would be one way.
No, the other way.
You want
See, I'd say, I won't say it'd be worse, safer to have it going in, only because to make a left-hand turn out of Beechwood is.
Yeah, how many, do we know how many accidents have been at the intersection of Beechwood and 422?
So-
There's usually one every week.
So.
Well,
so-
not anymore, but.
Yeah, so
it's close.
what we looked at was the accidents that happened for this case, was the accidents themselves that happened on Beechwood itself. So there were only 7 there in the last 5 years.
Well, a lot of hit and runs from like people
Well,
hitting cars and
that
stuff.
included hit and runs
Yeah,
as well,
oh.
because, or at least the ones, now, that's not to say there might have been accidents that have occurred there, let's say the hit and runs weren't
Right.
reported to the
Yeah.
police department.
Sure.
Because, that doesn't, I can only report on what
Yeah.
was reported to us.
Right.
Again, so there were only 7 there, and 2 of them that were serious enough to be considered a reportable accident, and one of those was actually at the intersection
Wow.
of Beechwood and 422.
Okay.
Bergen Avenue.
Yeah, so we'll get more data, Mr. Gardecki, and see
Okay.
what, we'll keep an eye on it the next couple weeks.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, ratify time extension for Laudeman Minor Subdivision to October 12th, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested a time extension to October 12th, 2019. I'd recommend the board approve this recommendation.
Need a motion?
I need a motion.
Make the motion to ratify the time extension.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next, authorize easement agreement for fence and deck at property 78 Bent Brook Circle.
Will, you want to review this?
So the homeowners at 78 Bent Brook are requesting a easement agreement for a deck as well as a fence around the entire property. There's a sanitary line that runs back and has a 20-foot wide easement. The wastewater authority individuals have been out there and marked the line. The deck is only 3 foot into the easement and not anywhere near the line itself. I even talked with the contractor today to make sure that he identifies where that lateral coming out the rear of the house would be before they start digging. So the agreement is for a fence and as well as a deck.
And plus he has a thing in there if it's in the way they'll remove it.
Yeah, they
so
pay us
it's-
at their cost.
Yeah, so
Motion.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Church Lane Estates subdivision plan withdrawal.
Mr. Chairman, there's a minor subdivision located at Wegman and Church Lane Road. It's been around for a while. The seller had proposed to subdivide it into 3 lots. He's subsequently sold the parcel. It's 30 acres. And the new owners proposed to subdivide it into 2 lots. So in order for this to occur, the board would need to ratify or confirm that the prior subdivision was withdrawn, and I would order the new property owner to submit a new application. So board needs to ratify that and confirm it.
Make a motion to withdraw the subdivision plan, the current subdivision plan.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next.
It looked like they were doing some perk testing up there or something. I saw 2 sites on
Next, authorize Brickhouse Environmental to perform a phase 2 environmental site assessment at the Promenade Shopping Center in the amount of $24,925.
Chairman, the phase 1 environmental assessment's been completed. They identified a number of areas where they believe that additional work is required, primarily around the Monroe muffler location to ensure that no hydrocarbon contaminants are subsurface, and also to verify the karst geology, if there is any, and where is it, and to what extent it is on the site. We'll be doing a couple other minor things, but that's the primary focus that we'll be doing. And this requires bringing in some specialized equipment. The price from the contractor is $24,925.
Everything there will be on public sewer and water?
Yes, everything is currently.
Right, yeah.
No, it's not. The property on the former Radio Shack, I believe, is on a well, but the shopping center is on public water and sewer. And then there will be public water and sewer at the entire property in the future.
That was a very thorough study. I mean, a lot they've identified. 200 and some pages worth, but yeah, make a, you need what, a motion? Make a motion for the phase 2 work at the identified potential problem areas.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next, discussion on right to know request.
Yeah, I can go right to know request. Okay. I thought it'd be instructive to inform the board and public with the right to know request that we've been getting. This is for the data for the last 3 years, for the last 2.5 years. The legal expenses, we are not staffed to assess all the matters that are required for right to know. I view the issue as a potential litigation issue, so I'd rather have the solicitor's office do all that work. They have done it, and this year has been an extraordinary year with 126 requests. This is through the end of June, and as the issue of giving the 30-day request, that is why the 30-day extensions are there. The other reason is I don't want to treat somebody differently. I don't want to have an issue. Why did I gave my request yesterday or 3 days ago? He gave his request today. He's getting an answer today. Why do I have to wait? I don't want to have that conversation. Unfortunately, everybody gets treated the same. They get their 30-day letter. When we get it, the information, we give it at the 30th day. If sometimes it's a little sooner, but most of the times it's at the 30th day. Sometimes the work that we do to provide the information requested takes 30 days. And that is why, we're at this point in time. I have no problem giving the information. It's just a process. I'm sorry to say that's where we are today.
Any comments from the board?
Would it, hesitate to ask this question, but would it be too complicated to have classifications? Like one which is something that's in office that is one single page versus something that's complex? Or
Well, some of the most common request is for property transfers. So it requires going through the property file and,
which would be complex.
And but that is the most common request we get because we're having a lot of, real estate transfers. There are requests for reading minutes or videos and stuff like that, and believe it or not, that is not an easy task to accomplish, getting from A to B, because just the way the things are in the office. But the primary issue is really the property file requests with the turnover, and that just takes time. And it takes, you know, the staff time to get the information, we give it to the attorney, because some of the information is confidential and shouldn't go out. But we're not prepared to make that determination, so that's why we go to the solicitor's office.
And then when there's more in-depth requests, we have to like hire outside paralegals, things like that. What can those cost? What's like a range on those?
The solicitor's office has the fees, I think they were
Well, there's what, you're looking at what it is, but in the Right to Know Act has like 30 exceptions to it too, so
Mhm.
certain things, sometimes when you're producing information, you have to make sure you redact some information from it. There's certain information that cannot be disclosed in response to a Right to Know request, so.
So this is 21 a month. How
It's a lot.
you know, many hours are we looking at
Well,
on average?
I mean, you can look at it right there. I mean, some of them are more complicated. We had a request recently where there was a request that was submitted regarding the board had approved the destruction of certain documents, and there was a request that came in after that. We had to have a couple people come up here and review the documents and redact whatever was necessary on an expedited schedule, so that was expensive. But most of the well, if something comes in though regarding transfer of property files, that's pretty routine, so that's not something that will take a lot of time, so 126 requests, 50,000, you know, we haven't had any real appeals this year. The reason why you see in the other years, there were a couple of appeals we had, which thankfully for us, we were successful on, but that's why you'd have more expense. I don't know how to answer it other than that. Each request is different. Some requests require a lot of work, some don't. But the 30-day extension, typically if we get a request sent to us, one of my colleagues will call over to the office and say, do you have the staff to respond within 5 days? That's usually the first question I have them ask. And if the answer is no, then we have to send out the letter because they're saying they don't have, that the administration's telling us we don't have the staffing level to respond within 30 days, or within the 5 days, then we have to invoke the extension. So if that's the message I get, then what we do is invoke the extension, and we work, my colleagues work with the administration to respond. But I can't sit here and say that, each request is 2 hours, because some would probably be, much less than that. And it's an attorney time, I can't speak to the administration. Well, we don't produce my office isn't ferreting through the files to produce what's responsive unless there's a question of privilege or some sort of confidentiality.
Right, so we're saying this is only $51,000 in legal fees. It doesn't take into account the staff
That's
time,
correct.
the staff
It's not fine.
cost, et cetera.
Well, and like when you guys had to come up because we're gonna destroy the documents, and then, so how much did that cost in legal fees?
It would be in the file. I mean, my recollection was that expense was about $10,000 down. But
So
that would be.
added to this figure?
No, it's within.
No, it's not in there.
No, it is.
It's not in that.
It should be within the 50, I think, John. That's not.
Because we didn't get the bill.
I was gonna say, isn't it, wasn't that one
Okay.
more recent?
Check, it is in the, it's in the 50.
I thought it was.
It's about $8,400.
Okay, there you go. There's the, yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was out. Okay.
No.
My mistake.
Is there a feel for how many of the, say, 126 or anything up there could have been avoided? I mean, not filing a right to know, just with a conversation. So.
That's part of the reason why we spent this time working on the website, right? So the more we can put out on the website, the more people can access this information
Yeah, I
on
think
there.
part of it
We
was
had an older website, we
lousy
weren't able to
website.
store the documentation on there. We also didn't have the server capacity to store what you're asking for at times. So as we progress, we increase on our IT, we increase our website, we'll have the ability to offer more of those things up front, so people won't have to put a right to know request in.
Yeah, so I think the website helps us with people knowing how to use a computer to be able to get this data.
And so is there a protocol, like someone should first call and ask if it's just available before?
Or how
filing?
to access it now?
Part of the reason why Laurie did her presentation today was in hopes of being able to educate not only the board but the entire community on what might be available for them to seek out first. This will be a training process for all of us. It's a brand new website, so it'll take time. As people call in or stop by, we can help and say, hey, did you know this was already on the website?
And references will be made in the right to know request to let people know that they can find this in the future there. We certainly don't want to stop anybody from using their rights to file a right to know. Certainly can open those at any time. We're just trying to make it faster for everybody to response time.
And, you know, maybe people don't know, a right to know, it's not like you can create a document, you have to find an existing document to provide the answer.
Well, if I'm understanding your question, the way the right to know law works is somebody submits a request for a specific document, you produce the document that you have that's responsive to that, assuming it's not subject to some privilege or some other requirement that you maintain its confidentiality. It's not something like if you're in a lawsuit, we have these things called interrogatories where somebody sends you a list of questions, you have to respond and create a document to respond. That's not the right to know law. The right to know law does not require you to generate documents. You have to produce what you have. That's what.
Right, that's what I was getting at, yes.
Any other comments from the board? David, did you want to make a comment on right to know? Name and address.
David Hughes, 255 West 27th Street. Okay, so I've heard all the excuses for not being able to meet the requirements. As you know, you have a 5-day period to produce the documents that are requested, and then you can extend it 30 days. It's been my experience, and I've probably submitted about 30 of those requests, and every single one of them I had to wait 35 days, except for one. And that was because you were going to destroy the documents on a Friday when you announced it on a Monday. I submitted the request on Tuesday. You sent me originally a response that I would have to wait 35 days. Then you realized, oh, you want to destroy these on Friday. So then you rescinded that and said, well, you can come in and look at them in 2 days. So you have the ability to respond to RTKs very quickly. Okay. Also, one of my requests, it's a very simple request. I wanted to see all your statement of financial interests. They should be in one folder. I can come into this room, you can bring up the folder, I can look at it, I can ask you to make copies for ones that I would like, or I can copy them from my phone alone. This would only take a few minutes, but I've got to wait 35 days to see the statement of financial interests. Okay? And there's a lot of other requests that could be shorter. Mr. Granger says, well, I want to be fair to everyone, so I'm going to make everyone wait 35 days. That's another ridiculous comment. Like Mr. Cortez said, everything is different. Some of them may be 5 days, some of them may be 10 days. So if you give a 30-day letter, maybe that thing is filled in 15 days, maybe 7 days. But you guys make it wait till 35 days. And the one request that came in, the first one that I ever got was on April 1st, perfect day. And I came in, it was due that day, so that means it should have been ready when I came into the office, but you guys said, you gotta wait till 4:30. It should be ready on the day that it should be available by the law, not telling me that, well, it's ready, but it's not ready, but we'll have it for you at 4:30. So if it's 30 days, and I come in on the 31st day, it should already be there for me to pick up, whether I come in when you first open up, or in the afternoon, or in the evening. Mr. Granger is the right-to-know officer. It's his responsibility, if he doesn't have enough resources to fulfill it in a timely manner, he should hire someone to do it. He's also, the township manager, you're the secretary, you're the treasurer, you're the chief administrative officer, you have the police department working for you, report to you.
It's called being a township manager, sir.
Yeah, so did I miss anything? He's the
township manager. Imagine that.
You need to take away some of his duties so that he can do the rest of them properly. So maybe we need another RTK officer, or hire someone. According to the state statutes, it's the supervisor's responsibility to make sure that the township is staffed properly to provide the services. So you should look into this, perhaps change who's the RTK officer, or hire someone to help out.
All right, thank you, sir.
One thing I would say is if anyone feels there's been any non-compliance with the, and this should be in any letter that you receive with the Right to Know Act, you have the opportunity to appeal that non-compliance to the Office of Open Records. I will say that in our tenure, at least my tenure as a solicitor, we've never had one appeal. We've had appeals taken, we've never had one that we've lost. So I'm not aware of any non-compliance, and certainly I do not want there to be any non-compliance. If there's anything, I can do to help, feel free to send me an email, but you always have the avenue of reaching out to the Office of Open Records if you feel that the township's doing something inappropriately. And that's the way the whole scheme's set up.
Makes sense. Department reports, Clarence.
Oh, excuse me, could I add to my public comment?
Yeah,
Thank you.
in regards to right to knows?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't know what Mr. Granger was saying, obviously.
Greg Altieri, 11 Nancy Circle. I am concerned, however, with the 4:30 consistently on the last day. I just find it hard to believe that they are always working on it the day it is due, and that it couldn't be sent out sooner. To me, that is a classic definition of game playing. I don't want that to get kind of swept under the rug. The other thing is this idea that everyone has to wait 35 days. I did a right to know request on right to know requests. And on March 29th, I put in a right to know request for the PowerPoint concerning Reading Country Club finances that was shown at the previous board meeting. I had also put a separate one asking for all the documents used to prepare the PowerPoint. I did it separately because I knew all the documents to prepare the PowerPoint would take a long time. So I did it separately because I expected that to take a long time. The PowerPoint itself shouldn't have taken long. Now I'm just told that we're treating everyone the same. However, on April 10th, and I don't know who this person is, it's not me, they asked for a copy of the recent police union contract. They requested it on April 10th, and they got it April 15th. That's not the same. I had to wait 35 days for something that already existed, that had been shown to the public, but I was questioning data that was at best weak. So I didn't get the information. Something that was just as easy, the police union contract, took a week. So let's get rid of this idea that we're treating everyone the same. I can't stand back and let that be said, because that's not the case. That's just one example. I had about 10 minutes tonight. I looked for this and brought it to the meeting. So I think you need to take a closer look at that, because Mr. Granger's statements aren't correct. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Department reports, Clarence.
Okay, over the last couple of weeks, as everybody knows, we've had a lot of rain, and the road crew has been extremely busy trying to stay ahead of all this. Last Wednesday night, they were out till 11:30, closing off roads and then opening them again, opening up drains. We came in 6 o'clock the next morning. They worked till 4:30 that day just to get Butter Lane open. It was extremely hot. It was extremely hot the next day, and we were out there again, and we were able to keep it open. We did close it during the day while we were working, but then we opened it again at night, and then we left it open for the weekend. It will get paved sometime next week, whenever it decides to stop raining. So I just want to say that the road crew did a hell of a job, and it was under a really tough situation there. We also finishing up highway mowing, and we have about 3,000 yards of double ground mulch down there now. A lot of people have been calling about mulch, so we got that ground finished last week, and now you got plenty of mulch, so it is available. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it, and they're ready again tonight. It looks like we might get some more stuff. Trucks have barricades loaded on them, and we'll see what happens. That's it.
Thank you, Clarence. Any questions, Clarence?
announce that Lieutenant Schaefer from the police department has graduated from Northwestern University Center for Public Safety. He graduated from the School of Police Staff and Command, which provides upper-level college instruction on topics that include leadership, human resources, employee relations, organizational behavior, and applied statistics. It'll be a great benefit to the police department, so I commend him for that. In addition, as it reaches peak holiday time now, I'd like to remind the residents that if you plan on going away or if you're going on vacation, if you have the ability, if you have lights in your house which could be set on a timer, please do that. Also, if you could notify the postal office to hold your mail. One of the things that, of course, a burglar would look at is mail that hasn't been opened, that's been stacking up in the mailbox, which would indicate someone's not home. In addition, the police department has a contact form which you can get from the department, which you simply list your name, your address, your time of departure, and your planned return date, and contact information if you were going to be away. That way, in case there's an emergency at your house, we'd be able to contact you or have a name of a contact person, so we get in touch with them. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, Joe.
Just a brief update on the Perkiomen Avenue improvements project. We'll continue to attend the bi-weekly progress meetings. It appears that PennDOT will be finishing up the storm sewer improvements for the section of Perkiomen Avenue located in the township, and then will be followed by the curbing. They're anticipating having the base course for that final lane completed probably towards the end of August, and then in September they will be milling and overlaying the entire section of Perkiomen Avenue. Hopefully, if weather cooperates, which hasn't been the greatest these days, we hope to have Perkiomen Avenue completed by probably early to mid-October. Also, the traffic signals are being worked on as concurrently when the storm sewer and the curbing is being done as well. Those foundations are being installed, and then the mast arms and so forth will be then installed. So things are moving along ahead of schedule, which is good. We were looking at towards the end of the fall or November, but so far the contractor seems like they're a little bit ahead of schedule, and hopefully with the weather cooperating, we'll have that street completed. PennDOT will have that street completed. And one other item, we did meet with DEP regarding our Growing Greener grant that pertains to the Sutton Circle detention basin retrofit. Last Friday, we reviewed the agreement and basically went over the administrative process for reimbursement, but we were also notified that there will be another round that'll be available either September or October this year, which we will apply for more grant money because we do have other basins that we really need to look at to meet our pollution reduction plan as part of the MS4 program. So I'll keep the staff informed when that opportunity is available, and we'll discuss which basins we want to focus on and try to see if we can get some more grant money. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions. DEPs will be accepting either in September or October is what they were telling us last Friday. So usually it takes several months for them to go through the selection process, but the applications may be available as early as September, or if not October. They usually give us a deadline then for submission.
Thanks, Joe. Solicitor report, Sam.
All I have is just to announce an executive session before the meeting to discuss the JMH litigation and contract dispute issue with Mascara. So, any questions? That's it.
Your report, Joe? Nothing. Rest of the public comments. David Heck. End of meeting, general comments.
Me or David?
David Heck.
Take it, Dave.
Okay. So before I get to David Hughes, 255 West 47th Street. before I get to that document I handed out, just want to make a couple comments. In the past, I don't know how far in the past, the township provided incoming and outgoing communications. I'm suggesting that we revive that and provide that as a document to the township as one of the things that we can look at every meeting. Secondly, this document is a copy of the May 23rd, 2016 meeting. If you go look at the minutes, there's pages missing. Actually, the page that has the conversation about the wastewater treatment plant. But you can go find it on the calendar in its entirety. All the pages are there. They're not listed in the normal minutes column. Also, the video's been taken down, but I've been able to put, we have a video, it's on my YouTube channel. But what it is a document that has the township supervisors discussing fixing the wastewater treatment plant's pumps. Mr. Granger was there. He even suggested that they do the work, $1.2 million. Mr. Cusatis was on the board, and Vinny was in the audience. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Darren and Jeff and Dave, you guys are sitting on the fence. You need to decide which side you're going to come down on. The community or with these guys, because if you weren't here last
All
time,
right.
Dave.
That's enough. That's
they
enough.
presented
Mr. Hughes,
evidence that.
you're done. You're done. You're done.
Oh, you don't want to hear about it, John?
No, I think that it was an inappropriate comment. You're done. Next public comment.
Interesting. Okay, folks, you have something you gotta look at. Hiding information.
It's all in the video, nothing hidden.
Watch the video.
2 questions.
Yep.
My first question is to Sam, an update on travelers.
Yeah, actually, Glenn, I
We'll do this for-
anticipated that. I asked for a timeline and did not get one, but I was assured in writing by the person at Travelers who's working on this that this is, quote, her top priority, this claim, so.
I will be very nice about it and repeat it until I get an answer.
I
I appreciate your effort.
That's why I reach out in advance of the meetings.
See, this is the part that bothers me. I try to be nice about it, but like I say, I shouldn't have to ask you.
Well, I can't, when I have information on it, Glenn, I will report. I'll certainly report to the board, and report to the public. I don't have anything right now. I mean, they have the claim, everything's been submitted. We'll just, when I have information, I did ask for a timeline. I didn't get a timeline. If I got that, I would have given it.
I agree, I appreciate that, but like I say, when you say, here's where the hang up is, and you said it.
Yep.
I'm related to the board. I'm not on the board.
Fully public. I would do it as part of my role.
Only if they tell you.
No, I've been told that with respect to this, I can give.
That one item.
I will give updates when we have information, so.
Okay, I'm gonna pick on you again.
That's fine.
At our last meeting, you responded to taking care of a group home complaint,
Yeah,
and you handled it very professional.
right.
And
Thank you,
unfortunately, at the end of the meeting, I came up
Yeah.
to question you
Mm-hmm.
what the reply was, because how you made out by contacting the lawyer for the group homes.
Right.
And Michelle was kind enough to tell me what transpired.
Yeah, the
But
lawyer
you
was
walked
away.
away. But you walked away, and I waited patiently till you come back. And I asked you, and then you shared what happened.
Mhm.
I guess what really bothered me was the people that own the house next to that is my granddaughter.
I know.
You don't know it's my granddaughter.
You told me that.
Did I tell you?
You did.
Okay, I'm checking your memory. So, I felt that here's just a case of transparency. When you had that answer, when you gave your report, you said the following item that was given to me was taken care of, and this is what was the response was.
Right.
And I respect what you did. But for the rest of us, I'm sitting alongside of a gentleman that there's a group home next to him, and I have one extra friend that lives in Whiteton that has one by him. And it's nice to know what the response was and how to go about it.
We have an agreement in place with this particular group home provider that there are certain protocols to be put in place. And my understanding is that they were followed. I don't think there've been any subsequent instances, since that happened, since the unfortunate incident that was described before. That we do keep the lines of communication open. They have a hotline number that is to be called, by the police, by our police department. They did call it, and they did get a response. So, you know, the way the law is, and I have explained this to you before, just so everyone understands, with respect to group homes, you know, there are federal laws in place that have imposed certain requirements. You know, the township really is not the body that can regulate them. What we can do is try to ensure that they're as safe as possible, and we've tried to do that. And we have an agreement in place, as I said, that hopefully provides for that. And the chief, I know, has been, you know, a big supporter of trying to make sure that they're run as safely as possible.
I respect what you said.
I know.
And what you said is credible.
Okay.
And the fact that in the beginning you did explain that there was 4 people in that home originally.
Now
And
there's
I-
one. Yeah. Right,
There's one.
right.
And when I explained it to my granddaughter and her husband, I told them right here that what you had shared. So, but I still think it would be nice to share that kind of information with the public. Like I said,
Sure.
there's more than just one group home, and there's
Yes.
many of them in the township.
Yes, there are.
To know about how to go about it properly, who to contact, and what to expect, and there is a solution to it.
There is. If there's any issues with anyone, any safety issue, including group homes, not limited to group homes, but if there's any safety issue, obviously the contact should be made to the police department. And I will tell you that with respect to the group homes that are in the community, at least with respect to the largest provider of those homes, we do have a certain agreement in place with them, and if the processes are followed, I think we're minimizing the risk of there being I'm not saying it eliminates it, but we're minimizing the risk of there being a horrible incident.
Thank you on that question, thank you, and in the future, try to share that
Sure.
with the public, not only the board.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
All right, thanks, Glenn.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Rivera.
Now, I go my second one, I have 2 down there. Okay? Last Wednesday night, we had our annual meeting at the landfill, and dealing with mosquitoes. And they were all gunned up to show me our harms and benefit report. They showed me the figure, what they did for the year. Our host figure was $897,397, host fee. I didn't even talk about the leachate, okay? I reminded them how this came about, because I had with me that day a paper clipping from the Reading Eagle dated June the 17th, 1984. It was exactly 35 years to the day, at the same time, that 5 of us, as concerned citizens out of Longstown, were in Norristown, battling them, the corporation, in the fact that we didn't want to treat the leachate in the township. So I said, you see, what you're boasting about was a hard road. The residents down there did the work. I was one of them.
Well, thank you.
No, well, thanks, it's not done. Like I said, 35 years to get where we are. I know the frustration about those big trucks. I just had a conversation at the last meeting about that. I said, you take a lot of heat, and there's many times I run it by Pat. I get a chance to talk to him. You can stop down and see him too, because he's in the area right now. I don't know what went wrong, but I've seen him the last 2-3 days.
All right.
Okay, he drives a black Cadillac, his license number 6069.
I'm gonna take you with me as a bodyguard, maybe. How about, will you volunteer for that?
I don't fear that, Pat. I knew this time I couldn't go in the same room with him, okay? But it just goes to show, I mean, I think he's frustrated too that the service building is up there. I mean, he didn't create the bridge problem. We created that for letting him put the darn business up there. You know? So, like I said, I think he has an open mind and you can talk to him. Like I said, I said, I can't wait till you put that building up to take care of the trucks and get them trucks out of there. I said, I'm tired of complaints.
Yeah, and we did talk to, as I said, I did talk to Bill Fox, general counsel there. I didn't talk to Pat specifically, but I talked to
Well, he's not one of my favorite fans. I fought him for 35 years, okay?
But he did say that they are willing to work with us on that issue.
He gets motion and action confused.
As do all lawyers, right?
No, but I'm telling you, I know what they're like. Sometimes you gotta be a hard one. I just wanted to say, that didn't happen overnight. That was a heck of a lot of hard work.
Yep.
And it's not the best, but it's better than nothing, because in our research, when we were battling them, we went back prior to us closing them in August the 15th, 1984, we shut them down. They were in litigation for 6 years, and prior to that, the township was supposed to get $500 a year for the previous Donald, who didn't believe in rules or regulations. You know, very similar to some in public today. It's just unbelievable what transpired. I mean, it is just hard to believe. And that's why I feel like I do, and why I come out, is that the people in Baumstown deserve the same treatment as those in Wright. Same consideration. We're human just like they are. You may not like us, we may not dress that way, but it's okay. We live in Baumstown. That's just the way I feel. I'm sorry.
Flint Baumstown, right?
Pardon?
Flint Baumstown, as we always say it.
Yes.
Anytime.
Yeah. Hey, it's good you got a memory of that. Yeah. I'll remind you.
Have a good memory.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime. William Clark. We're gonna talk about sewage treatment report.
Bill Clark, 251 Shelbourne Road, Reading. Reason I'm here. Before I start, I want to thank your addressing our website.
Yes.
Because I swear, navigating that website is designed to frustrate individuals more than to like them.
It was long overdue.
It is terrible. It was a terrible website.
I agree.
The reason I'm here is I read that report that you had presented here last
2 weeks ago.
8th of July. Read the whole thing. All I can say is this board was very poorly served by the management of that facility. You're lucky somebody didn't get killed. You got pumps there, big pumps, big motors on them. And you could have had pieces of steel flying all over that place by the looks of that pump, some of those pumps. I've been involved with pumps for many, many years, off and on. And that is scary. And then you read newspaper accounts, what we see about it's up above the state right now to approve the sale, but right now, read the papers. And it's telling me the township or the taxpayers can be responsible for all the upgrades required to bring that facility up into full compliance and safety. You're lucky OSHA isn't down there right now checking the place out. Also, we're still going to be responsible for the debt service that exists in the sale of this thing.
Well, once the sale is complete, that's gonna take care of the $21 million debt.
Only if you decide to pay it off and don't find someplace else to spend the money.
We have to, right?
Yeah, if they do sell, if the sale closes, they're required by law to pay off that debt.
Who?
The township. The
township.
sale proceeds have to
Isn't
go.
that's pretty unusual, because I've been in many companies that have been bought out, and usually the buyer is the one that absorbs the.
Yeah, this is a statutory issue, because this is tax-free debt, that's on that particular, facility. When it's sold, that debt, part of that sale proceeds have to go to the debt. That's the law.
Well, anyway, one thing I did not notice in that report was generated. I didn't see the cost to upgrade the facility. I mean, he went through all the things wrong. Most of them were all mechanical. I didn't see anything about electrical. And the mechanical's that bad. I don't know what the electrical's like down there. But I didn't see what was going to be the cost to upgrade the pumps and everything else. The whole facility.
of dollars. There's two issues. One is the plant, second is the collection system, and the third is the regulations. We had a conversation today that confounded me. I've been in this business a few years and I've had to deal with some bureaucrats. But somebody's starting to make regulations about the color of the effluent that leaves the plant. I'm sorry, that pales me why I have to regulate the color of the effluent as it comes out the pipe. Those are the things that will always add cost to whatever we're doing here. So, there's three costs: the plant, it's the collection system, and it's the regulations. And those costs are substantial and will always be increasing, and there's no way of getting around it.
You just made a comment, multi-million.
Yes.
Question is, are we talking tens of millions?
I suspect it's way above that, yes. The plant was built in the 90s.
Correct.
Okay. Not been a lot of replacement in mechanical systems. How long is the useful life of a lot of these things in the operation of the plant has been met or is going to be met, and that is what is driving, the cost substantially.
Just so she's
One
clear.
of the comments to that report said lack of maintenance. I
Yes.
forget the next term they used about preventive maintenance. It sounded to me like the engineer doing that was some wheezing words to say, there was none. It wasn't just lack, but it was backup pump basically cannibalized, that was inoperable.
Yep. I'm not.
It just seems like we don't really, as a township, taxpayers, don't seem to be getting the service we need from the people working for this township. Overall, classic example, you just brought up today, it's off the subject, but we talked about the Reading Country Club.
Right.
I think it was a year ago, or maybe a little longer, when I read it was a meeting, they talked about the windows leaking in that building. I gather today, we're not allowed in it. I got a feeling, nobody said this, but reading between the lines, I got a feeling it's mold in that building, sprayed. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I heard today, in between the lines. And I thank you.
I was just gonna say that, I don't, John, his question, the cost issue, the multi-millions, that's the cost that's gonna be borne by whom? I don't think he-
The cost to upgrade the plant will be borne by the purchaser, and it'll be spread out across his entire rate base.
It's not gonna be, you're not gonna be on township, it's not gonna be.
No, once,
liable for any of it.
if we go to settlement, we pay the debt, they pay us the money, we invest the money, they're responsible for the operation and maintenance of the plant, then the collection system and all the regulations. We are out for the wastewater treatment business.
And they can spread
Period.
any fees across their entire
They
customer
have a
base.
rate for their entire, all their systems have one rate. They
Throughout
spread all their capital costs across the entire rate base,
Throughout Pennsylvania.
throughout Pennsylvania. They-
Which the average taxpayer.
With the regulations, with the maintenance, which is why, yeah, that's
$600, $800 a year more.
that's why we've been talking about for 2 years to sell the wastewater treatment plant, and we got it done to sell it, so that's why it was a good decision.
We'll find out. Some of the decisions this township has made.
I agree.
Has not
It's
been really
it's
good.
been a nightmare.
EMS for starters.
With Penn State,
EMS,
Penn State does a great job.
that did not work out very well.
Well, it worked out well now. Penn State did a phenomenal, is doing a great job.
It did not work out very well as Kim handed through here. We spent a lot of money upgrading EMS people in this
In the
township.
fire department.
And it just, went down.
Oh, you're talking about previously, okay.
Previous.
Gotcha. Yeah, the
ETVA, years ago, yeah.
I'm talking about the recent change.
Even it was not a good deal either.
It was terrible, terrible
Well,
decision.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Next, Leroy Reinhardt, about sewer rates, sewer bills.
Thank you, I'm Leroy Ryder from 85 Thayer Road. My question was about the billing on the sewer bill. I can understand why now you raised it 29%. I want to know, how is that bill on the sewer come about? Is it an amount of water that you use?
Yes.
Yes. It's on the amount of water you use? But it's not, it's so, if I wash my car and the water doesn't go in the sewer system, I'm still being charged. If I pressure wash my house, I'm still being charged. If I give the dog water, I'm still being charged.
Jen, would you like to chime in on this?
Yes, it is based upon the amount of water that you use, as long as you are on a meter. So if you have PA American water, we are using the water rates from PA American. If you have a private well, and you have a meter installed, we're monitoring the water going into your house. If you don't have a meter on your well, you pay a flat rate. The rate structure that is set by the rate consultants that we've used in the past and by PA American takes into account the fact that you don't all of the water that you bring into your house doesn't actually leave your house. So the rates do, when they calculate the rates, they do take into effect that not every drop of water that comes in is leaving.
Or they do take that into effect?
And when they calculate the rates, yes. We don't have any way, there are no meters to put on sewage. You have to calculate it a different way, you have to use water consumption.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, so if I have my wife, my daughter and 2 grandkids living with me, and I wash 5 cars, I'm being charged because I wash my vehicles because I want my cars clean. So I'm being charged for the water that does not go through the system.
Right, and that is no
Which,
different
as
than
far as I'm concerned, ain't fair, but it's the
no
way the
different
system
than any
is
other
set up.
system. That is system-wide. That's no different than any other municipality or PA American or anybody else. There's no way to monitor sewer leaving your house. It's always based upon water
Maybe some
consumption.
modern technology, maybe there should be some way to monitor
Figure it out, you
You know
can
what I
be a millionaire.
Maybe it's some way we could share the cost on a per capita tax. Why should the homeowners have to pay for it all?
Sewer is an enterprise. It is not a government entity, so it's only charged to those who are actually using the systems. So if you have private septic, you're not on the sewer system. You're not paying.
That's right.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Carl?
Try this one last time with
Name and
your
address. Name and address.
Carl Schoenberg, 207 Lisa Lane. I left already, I'm watching TV. The bonuses, you told me a breakdown of 2017 and 18, and that he gets bonuses based on the goals set by the Board of Supervisors. Can you name 3 goals that you set for him that he got a bonus in 2017 and 3 for 2018?
Not off the top of my head, I can't, no. I'll get him, no.
I have guesses, but I'm not saying it in public.
Yeah, I know, I kinda know what they are. One was the police contract, as an example.
How about getting rid of those union guys at the sewer? Like bonus?
What's that?
How about eliminating
No.
the union guys?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
All right.
Wastewater treatment plant was a process that, actually, we've been talking about that for 2 years, and John, it was nothing that he ever, I mean, that was something
Well,
that.
he's not a union man, so I
That was something that the board actually brought up to him, it was actually the other way, you know, it
It
was.
was actually the employees themselves that asked them. So the employees requested to be released from employment.
Back when the,
I'm talking about the sale, I'm talking about in regards to.
He's talking
All right, I'll never get the answer from you to that.
Yeah, the sale was something that the board was actually looking at,
I
because when we saw the rates.
I understand what you're doing at this point. The Right to Know Act stuff, I filled out a Right to Know for 4 meetings. They sent me a reply in 5 days that 2 meetings were available and 2 weren't. And I had to wait for 35 days. 5 o'clock at night, I got the reply of the 2 meetings they sent me by email. They didn't work. I asked for, can I get a copy on DVD? I got one I dropped off this morning. I got it today already. So why does that take 35 days?
Because the link worked on our end, it didn't work on your end. So we were able to.
But it still took you 35 days even just to send me the link. Is what I don't understand either. Right? If you can do everything in a day, why does it take 35 days?
They are very lengthy processes to go through this.
To copy a video. Okay. Enough said for today.
Thank you, Carl. Next, supervisor reports, Vinnie.
I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but toes, but to the families, yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone here would just, I'm hoping that your son's okay with the emergency, and.
He's only 16 months, so I was definitely terrified.
Yeah.
He had strep throat, so I'm glad he at least had a cause of it, but it was absolutely terrifying.
Right. No, I mean, I've had a child I had to take to the hospital. She has asthma, and it's not allergy triggered, so it's not fun. And the frustration is beyond with the board as well with the Norfolk-Southern. I mean, unfortunately, I feel, my personal opinion, it's like, I just keep saying about it, they just don't, I mean, we want it open, and it had the plans and everything to it, but it's just not there. But a couple positives that to report on to the Exeter 12U Little League. Won their game today, so they got another game to go, so they're close to the states. This is the first year that they actually won a sectional championship ever, so that's a very cool positive. Karen Whitehawk is here. Exeter now has a board, right, for the Exeter Township Crime Watch, and Sergeant Bain is one of the members, the liaison with the police department. So I'm sure you get on next door when the meetings are going to be, and it's very informative, and plus, like I said, it gives you a good access to, Sergeant Bain, police officer, to ask questions and concerns with the neighborhoods and stuff. So great job that it's starting in Exeter. And other than that, that's it.
Thank you, Vinny. Darren?
Just thanks to the highway crew for all your work. I know it's not been easy with all the flooding and everything. Butter Lane, to hear one night that it'll be closed for a couple days, and then the next day it was open.
Yeah.
Great job.
Well, it's a little bumpy. I think the bridge shifted a little bit, just a smidge. Never know.
Just
The whole township shifted.
with the dog park initiative that I wanted to get started, I have a call into Tom O'Connor, which thank you, Mr. Hoover, for putting me in touch with him about taking a look at the Daniel Ruiz Murphy Dog Park on South Center Road. It's a nice park, and there's a large dog side and a small dog side, but the issue is the grass isn't real dense, and there's a lot of weeds, so when it rains, it takes a couple days till you can take a dog. So once I talked to Tom, Mr. Hoover thought he would be pretty receptive. We're gonna go look at it and look at getting it like a turf option. I know I spoke at other meetings about the dog park in Lancaster at Buchanan Park, right near the home of James Buchanan. They have the nicest dog park I've ever seen. It's all like basically AstroTurf. The rain cleans it for the most part, and it's self-draining and self-sufficient, and you can go anytime. So we're gonna look at two options, either redoing that, actually three options, redoing that existing park, and then Clarence and I have spoken about some area at Danube and Homestead that we're gonna go down and look at, and maybe just putting in a completely new park, or doing both. So I've reached out to Purina, who sponsored the one at Buchanan, and I'm gonna check with Petco and then other, dog product, like dog food, dog toys, like any companies we can maybe contact, and then look into starting like a GoFundMe and other fundraisers, because I think it'd be great. There's a lot of dog lovers in Exeter, me being one of them, obviously, so I think if we could get a really nice park here that's a little more weather resistant and more self-cleaning, I think residents would really like it.
Great work, Jeff. Dave?
I echo the frustration certainly with the underpass, the culvert, and everything that happened there. I just want to thank Sam and Joe, and I know it's frustrating for the people that are working on this, but I think the entire board's trying to get that done. Clarence, I think the storm, with these big storms, the storm sewers certainly pose a problem trying to get them cleaned out. I think the crew has done a great job trying to get to it. I mean, I've heard some residents complain, it's like, oh, you don't get there right away, and they're cleaning them themselves. But I want to thank the residents too for, if you have one in front of your house, the highway department would certainly appreciate your help. I got one in front of my house, and I know my neighbor's usually out there before I am to clean the ones out there, and that does help as we get more housing and everything out, we have a lot of runoff and a lot of drainage issues in the township, so.
2,500 catch basin.
Yeah, so keeping them clear helps a lot, because, you know, I see them, the water starts rushing over them, it just goes to the next one and gets worse, so. And also just thanks to the chief for, you know, looking into the Beechwood Drive and everything else, I mean, the team's been doing a great job, so.
I just want to congratulate Karen on being named president of the Exeter Crime Watch. Great job with you and that team. That's all I have, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Next meeting is August 12th, 7 p.m.